Say they're out there right there. Guys, I'm Nat from Twiniversity. I am, I don't know, the big cheese here, author of What to Do When You're Having Two, mom of twins, blah, blah, blah. More importantly, that person over there is Lauren, and Lauren is currently 30 weeks pregnant with her 20s. You might recognize her from her fancy lifestyle blog, perhaps our baby shower, perhaps just, lounging around with her husband, Nick. She is everywhere. Perhaps she's hanging with the Great Dane and random animals that live in her home. But most importantly, we're going to focus on the 30 weeks pregnant today. Lauren, how is it going? How has it been? We haven't seen you in a few weeks. What's going on?
So long. Well, the last live was before we went to Hawaii. So we went to Hawaii. We went to Lanai for our baby moon. And yeah, now I feel like that was so long ago, but that was, I think, at 24 weeks, and now I'm 30 weeks. So here we are. I'm definitely like feeling it more. I'm heavier. Like I can just feel the weight. I'm carrying the weight of what a full-term baby would be like at this point, and I still have time to go. So it makes sense. It makes sense. But yeah, pretty much normal over here, except for heartburn and fatigue.
That's not too shabby. So here's the fatigue question that I have. Now, your Insta feed is very like aesthetic and beautiful and great. And it's definitely aspirational is what I want to say. And now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of your pregnancy, and you're telling everybody, which, Lauren, is weird because sometimes you'll have people that are all on Insta and they're like, oh my God, my pregnancy is so great. You're like, dude, I'm tired. So this is what I want to know about. How did you make the decision to be, instead of like aspirational, to be realistic when it comes to your public persona?
I feel like that's how I've always been. I did make a shift when I first started like my blog and Instagram, like in my Instagram, I guess I did it in 2012, which is a long time ago. But I just felt like, why pretend? Like, I don't know, not that other people pretending, but it just felt more real and like connected. And when I first started, I was like, here's a pretty dress that I wore. Yeah. But it just was so much more rewarding for me to like be real with like how things are going. And then also when I had my miscarriage last year, before it was actually a miscarriage, my doctor, who's aware of my profession, was like, you need to write about this, just because at the time it was just bleeding. Just like so many influencers out there are just like, oh, here I am, blah blah blah, it's so easy, and was like, it's just not realistic for most people. And so that also, I was kind of already on that lane, but then she just kind of solidified like, this is what you need to do. And so while my feed may be like fixed and pretty, I feel like I'm very real on stories as far as just like, here I am, today I'm wearing makeup, I'm like, here I am, no makeup, blah blah blah, that type of thing. And I feel like that's just more, it's real, it's relatable. I don't want to be fake.
Well, how do you feel? Like, how's the response been? And hi to everybody out there. And if you guys have any questions for Lauren, just shoot them over in the chat. We have somebody that's also pregnant with twins at 30 weeks. So that's really exciting. So her due date is October 27th. So everybody's going to have such.
October 26th.
Yay, babies. So yes, if you have questions, just throw them in there, whether you are watching this live or watching this later. We'll always try to get your questions answered. So how do you think you're going to show the rest of your pregnancy? Like, how graphic are you going to be, right? Because there's some like Instagrammers that are like, here's my placenta and watch me have this placenta sandwich. And then you have people that are like, no, like my babies are perfect and you're going to only see them clean. Have you given much thought to your public image and what you're going to show and when you're going to show it, since you have such a big following?
Yes, as far as like the response of people, I think people generally like it. When I say things, I'm very careful to make sure it's not like I'm complaining. I feel like I have to do a disclaimer of like, I'm not complaining, I'm just being real, which I haven't had any people like come at me as far as that goes. But as far as like the transition, I've had this discussion with Nick, my husband, and just also with friends. And it's just like, I will be as open as I can be want to be, am ready to be. Sometimes I take a little bit of time to process things.
Yeah.
But as far as when it comes to the twins, I don't know that I'm going to, cover up their faces, which is fine if that's your, you got to do you. I know there's crazy people on the internet, but as far as like showing them and stuff, I think that I do need to let some of their own things like remain private because they didn't ask her this, or and even just some pictures some parents post, there's no judgment. It's just like, I'm not posting a naked photo of my child on the internet. It just, there's too many things. Like I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
It's like my decision. You make your decision. But I think that I'll navigate it as I go because it's just uncharted waters for me. But I do know that there'll be probably more of a line. Like I don't want to show even people like I'm friends with on Facebook. They're like, my child had a meltdown about this. I'm like, maybe don't post that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or whatever, just because like we all have bad days, and I don't want to like look back, and like the internet is like scary and forever, and like I don't want to look back and see like, oh, I said that, or God forbid their friend at school sees something that I posted 10 years ago, and it's just weird. It's just weird. So I think there will be a line.
It's something that everybody should think about it. And there's no wrong answer, obviously, here. It's going to be what's right for your family. But I remember when we got my dog, right? So when we got Betty and she was like a tiny little puppy, she totally would like eat her poop. And apparently this was a normal puppy thing. And so my kids made a little sign and they hung it around her neck, and it says, I eat my own poop. Okay. And so then we put it on Instagram because it was really funny. Do you know my husband got so mad? And he was like, why are you doing that to her? I'm like, John, she's a dog. She's like a dog. And he's like, she's part of our family. And I was like, what is going on here? Is this really the conversation that we're having? And I was always so careful with the kids. I didn't think that our animal would have to abide by the same rules, but it's just funny how your partner could be more sensitive. So even if you're like, I'm cool with this, I think it's cute, I think it's funny, not that it's just a dog, but it's a good metaphor for what reality is here, that you could, your partner may not want you to share everything. So now that you're getting into your kind of latter part of your pregnancy, right now, you're almost there. You're 4 weeks away from my delivery.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where, just to put it in perspective, and my kids are fine. Like, thank God, knock on wood.
I'm just not ready for things I need to do.
Well, here's the thing. I want to know. I'm going to give you a speed round, and I want you to tell me if you got these things done. Okay. And I'm not dog shaming you. I'm not going to hang a sign around your neck that says I did not install my car seats. That is not what's happening. But did you pack your hospital bag?
It's mostly packed, and I have a list on my phone that you can share notes across iPhones. So I plan on finishing that this week, but it is mostly done. And then the things that still need to be put in it are on a shared note with Nick, to where like if something were to happen, he'd be able to finish it, and like we know what's going in there. So mostly done. Did he pack his own bag? No. So he's not even remotely packed for him. Well, is he ready? I didn't ask him to do that. I typically pack his bag just because, I don't, he's perfectly capable of doing it, but I started his bag. There's a list of things that need as a reminder of what needs to go in. So, all right. So hospital bags pretty much done. Are your car seats installed, or have you done a trial run of your car seats? Yes and no. Nick worked on the car seats. He's practiced like putting it in. We haven't gotten it inspected. So we know how to do it in the car. That's done. We just need to get it inspected. Okay, beautiful. Next thing is your birth preferences. Have you thought about what you're going to do, and have you expressed it to the hospital and your doctor? And if so, how did that go? I haven't. That's another shared note that I have with Nick on our phones of just like the birth wish list. I haven't gone over it with my doctor yet because I haven't seen her. I'll see her. Today's Wednesday. No, today's Tuesday. I don't know. I see her Thursday, and she's been out of town, so I haven't seen her in like 5 or 6 weeks. So I've been going to my MFM, and so I'm going to bring that up with her. And no, I haven't talked about it with the hospital, but I have like a preliminary birth wish list that
Okay.
is on our phones.
And it's Wednesday. And I had to look because I actually didn't know what it was. And I actually had to check my phone. I'm like, what day is it? I don't even know anymore. Okay, so that's done. Have you found your pediatrician?
We have the interview with them today.
You have the interview with them today. What are the things that you are going to be looking for or asking about during your pediatrician interview?
Yeah. So first of all, this is the earliest that they would allow us to take the interview. So we booked it like 5 or 6 weeks ago. I don't know. I feel like there are questions you told me to ask, like, do we get 2 appointments for twins? I have questions about vaccines, and they post their vaccine schedule.
Mhm.
So I just have some other questions regarding travel, and I know I have a list on my phone of things to ask. All that's coming to mind right now.
Okay. All right. Another thing I want you to ask that's kind of newer is how do they handle virtual appointments? What can they cover for virtual appointments? Like, could they diagnose diaper rash over a virtual appointment?
Yeah.
Or let's say there's like a skin fungal infection. Like, where do you draw the line on virtual versus in person? Because, knock on wood, nothing happens and everything stays and we could go to a doctor like regular people. But it's funny that not every single pediatrician will diagnose the same things virtually. So while here in New York, they might say, yeah, we could help you with an ear infection. But in California, they may be like, absolutely not. Like, that's just not something. So talk about that, please, please, please. Okay. Now, have you thought about if the babies do have to go to the NICU? Are you going to use the staff pediatricians, or are the pediatrician you're talking to today, are you going to see if they could come to the hospital?
That's on my list, actually. And I think from the way it's, because they have all this paperwork that I read through, because they already answered the question that I know you said about the administrative things with like fee. So I know the fee and all of that stuff. That's on my list. From the way the papers read, it sounds like they come, but I'm going to ask that question. So that is on my list.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's kind of, it's a lot. Now, have you talked to your doctor? This is going to sound so like WTF, Nat. Have you talked to your doctor about birth control post-delivery?
No, but I am not really worried about that.
I know you're not, but this is how the twins twice comes up at Twiniversity, and this is why we've seen this a lot, and so nobody thinks about it. And I'm not saying, yes, you could, of course, wait to your 6-week appointment, but sometimes you're like, well, what if we were on lockdown again? Like, have as many conversations in person as you possibly can and say, okay, well, what can I do? What's safe to do during breastfeeding? How do your other new moms deal with this? So
but I actually have been doing the fertility awareness method for 2 years prior to this. So that's what I'll continue doing. So I like that. And so I don't really need to have that conversation, but I understand other people want to have it, need to have it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I hope you have another set of twins right away. I know the set isn't even here. I just because I think Nick can handle it. I think if there's anybody that I really think would be great, could you imagine him? Lauren, could you imagine him with 4 kids? He would be the best.
Yeah.
And then they'd all ride the dog around the neighborhood. It would be great.
He likes to tell people we're going to have like 6 to 8 kids. And I'm like, well, with your next wife, because it's not going to be me.
He's going to have 6 to 8 kids. You're like, I'm good with just 2 at a time, maybe 3 at a time next time. I want to bring it up to people because we get so many moms that conceive during breastfeeding and they're like, that's not going to happen. So,
well, and like, it's something that I
sometimes
obviously like are minor fraternal and I have it in my family. And so whenever I tested my hormones last summer and they told me I had the low AMH, which is the low egg count, I'm wondering like, okay, is that partially because I drop 2 eggs a lot of the time? So
it hoards them. You have hoarder ovaries that are just like, we're going to hold everything until it's time. And then they're all coming out. That's so exciting. It's like, you're in such a space right now that I know you probably are not as comfortable as you'd like to be. And it is going to, it's going to change, but it's temporary. And that's like the thing that you always have to kind of remember. And it's good now to start. I know you're really good about your mental health, and I know that you're really good about movement. And it's not something that, I'm not saying I'm not worried about you, but I worry about other people more. But it's really important that you remember that there has to be a recovery period. And I know that a lot of times new parents get into kind of like a spiral after delivery of like do, and breastfeed. And, it becomes like kind of this whirlwind that just think about ways or gentle reminders that you could give yourself or gentle prompts that you could tell Nick to, put a little bug in your ear when it comes to if you are moving a little too much. Because I think a lot of times new parents in general feel that this is just what we do. This is just parenting. And I'm not saying it's not. Obviously we have to take care of these two little kids, but the recovery process, both physical and emotional, and you've been through a lot, girl. Like to get to this point, like you are, I was going to curse. I had to stop myself, but like, I want to be like, you've been through some poop, man. You've been through a lot along the way.
Around my neck.
Stop it. Don't, my husband's going to be so mad at me. I couldn't, Lauren, honestly, he was so pissed at me, like genuinely. He's like, take it down. I'm like, I'm not taking it down. I'm not taking it down. I'm standing firm on this one. It's a dog. She'll be fine. I don't think her therapist says she's over it now, so we don't have to.
That I move too much now, that I'm doing too much, and so I've tried to like step it back. I did yesterday. I started physical therapy and like pelvic floor,
great
physical therapy and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. What are they doing? Tell me a little bit about that. Now that did they create kind of like a plan for you for like 30 weeks plus then postpartum? What's the schedule with a pelvic floor specialist? And was it covered by insurance?
So actually it is covered by my insurance. I had to get my doctor is the one who referred me to it, and he had to write like a prescription.
Yes.
So I go once a week. I went started yesterday, and they basically just assess like me. So I have scoliosis. I wore a back brace for 2.5 years. They also are aware of my ulcerative colitis and other things that I'm dealing with. And so they tested my range of motion, and I have my hip pain has been pretty bad. Like I'll wake up with like fiery hips that are just like hurting in the middle of the night. And so and like I know that my IT bands are tight, and it's just weird because I'm also naturally flexible. So like I have the range of motion for the most part, but there are things that I can do. So they gave me like stretches and stuff to do, which I think is great because I take walks and I do like downward dog and stuff like when I wake up, but I'm not exercising per se. Like I thought that I would have this pregnancy exercise routine. That's just not the case. I lay in bed most of the day moving my ankles, keeping my legs up, but like I don't feel bad about it either. But I think these stretches will be good because they're like helpful for me, and like how to breathe and things like that, and just like exercising my core, even though I don't really have a core right now. So I think some of them are basic stretches, but a lot of them are tailored towards me. So like my upper back is, even though that's like where part of my curve is on my scoliosis, that I like have a little bit of loss of range of motion there, and like most of the issues are in my hips and stuff. So like they were able to like tailor everything to me. So yeah, it was good. I really liked it.
I think that people underestimate the power of a pelvic floor specialist. And a lot of people think, well, I think a lot of people think like, I'm only going to go to them if I'm sneezing and peeing on myself. I don't think they actually, that for you guys watching, and I'm not saying you, because I know you know, but for the other people, they may not know that it's kind of like a holistic approach to your muscular structure, and saying that everything is connected to everything else. And if there's one little, clink in the chain, it could all fall apart. So when you go to a pelvic floor specialist where you're like, oh my God, are they going to make me just do Kegels all day? What's going to happen? It is kind of a very whole body approach to making sure that, it kind of, not that it ends at your pelvic floor, but that it's just everything involved. So I think it's interesting that they're focusing on either the negative parts of your spine that may not be typical, and saying, okay, here's how to strengthen it. Because if you guys don't know, if you're just watching this and you're newly pregnant, you lose your core. So as humans, we stand upright because of our core, and our core is our abs and stuff like that. Of course, we have our spine, which is standing us up. But like Lauren right now at 30 weeks pregnant, and it's going to get even worse, her core is so stretched that her abdominal muscles are just saying goodbye for a minute. So when you have a situation like Lauren does with scoliosis, it's even more important to try to get support any way you possibly can, be it a pelvic floor specialist, an acupuncturist, a prenatal masseuse, a chiropractor, but whoever you work with, they do need to be a prenatal licensed specialist. You can't just go to like Bill around the corner that you've been going to since you're 19. You have to make sure that they know how to deal with a maternity body.
Yeah, and this place is like specific to mothers and women and just like the pelvic floor. And like you think of it more, I think of when you give birth naturally versus a C-section. Even though I'll probably end up having a C-section, they do specific things that work with that too.
Okay.
So I think it's great all around. Like even if you don't have scoliosis or other issues, like it's just a good preventative, and just to know like, oh, like I had no idea I could have been like breathing that way. And like I did yoga like every day pre-pregnancy, and it's like, and I consider myself like I know how to breathe, but like it's different pregnant. And so just like it's very interesting, and I think helpful.
I think I'm so proud of you that you're like, I'm doing it. This is it. I think that you have California. You're California. You know, most coastal cities are probably a little crunchier, let's just say. But I don't want people to think that this is like a California or a New York thing. It's anywhere. It's anywhere in the country. And I bet you $1 bazillion. Don't take that bet because I don't have it. But you have pelvic floor specialists in your area. And if you don't have like legit somebody, there is going to be a PT that is going to help with the prenatal crowd.
And I forgot what podcast I was listening to, but it was about maybe it was a book I was listening to. It was about, I think it was the 4th trimester book.
Yes.
They were talking about, you know, like birth is like the only thing, like you go after your 6-week appointment and, you know, it's a major surgery or major event, and then they don't send you to physical therapy or whatever. Whereas like any other major surgery or major event like that, they do. And so it just like kind of mind boggling. I was like, wow, I didn't never think about it like that.
There's so many things that have to do this. It frustrates me that when I had the twins forever ago, I just went with the flow. I didn't even know that 90% of the things that I know now existed. And that's kind of like what I want Twiniversity to be, is like, open your eyes to these new things. You don't have to do anything, but know that they exist. But it's one of the things that still shocks me to this day is how, well, yes, it is a natural process. Everybody has babies. This is the way it goes. But a C-section is major freaking abdominal surgery. They're literally cutting into layers and layers and layers of your body. And they're like, good luck, Knuckles. And you're just gone. And there are so many moms that forget to even write that down as previous operations. Like, you know, in 20 years, when you go to a doctor and they say, you know, list your previous surgeries, you actually have to list a C-section. And people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a C-section. No, there is no just a C-section. There's things that can happen because of your C-section. Because it could be a hernia. It could be some kind of like muscle in here, right? There's a lot of things that could happen. Knock on wood, nothing happens because I'm just weirdly superstitious. But it's funny that people dismiss that a C-section could cause, you know, injury later on down the line. So
well, even not C-section, I mean, things that are like common versus normal, like just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, doesn't mean you should have to suffer through it. And there's just so many women who have issues that like maybe their doctor doesn't listen to them about, or like they don't necessarily like push them towards like, these are options that you have. So
I wish that if I had my way, do you know what I would ever do, like when I'm old and I don't want to do things anymore, also known as now? I would start like a parenting center And it would be a requirement that you would have like a 6-week checkup, a 9-week checkup, a 12-week checkup. And there would be a pelvic floor specialist, a lactation consultant, a mental health specialist. And like this would be like follow up, because like when my mom got
Make sure
knee
you wanted to say
surgery,
that live. Someone may just take that from me.
please just do it. Like anybody, I don't even care. But Lauren, I say it all the time. I'm actually shocked by how lactation consultants in hospital don't show somebody how to use a pump. And so often if I'm doing like a consultation with a new family and they're like, and they'll say like, oh, do I have to supplement? I'm like, if you want to try pumping, like you can. And they're like, well, I don't know how to use it. I'm like, so nobody showed you how to use it. You have to be shown how to use these things. It's like installing your car seat. You shouldn't just throw your car seat in the car and be like, whatever, I'll figure it out as I go. You shouldn't put your nipples in a device that could cause you trauma to your skin and to your milk glands or your milk ducts. Like there's things that you should do. And I really wish that somebody would be like, let me help you.
Wait, so I have a question around that because I've seen
Yes.
it. I don't actually know your answer to it, which is why I'm asking. But I've seen two different answers of like, do you bring your pump to the hospital? One I've seen yes, and one I've seen no, they have a pump there.
I would say no, but I would say ask them for a pump and let them show you how to use that one. You don't like, you could always read the instruction on your specific pump when you get home. I just need you to know what your nipple's supposed to look like when you're using the pump. Yeah. Like, is it dragging on the side? Is it getting lost in the shuffle? Is it pulling in your whole areola? Like what's going on? And you got to know these things because Lauren, please right now, for the amount of times that I'm like, girl, you can't use that. You're going to get hurt. You're hurting yourself. And they're like, it's so painful. It shouldn't be painful. It should feel like you have to pee and you sit down on the bowl and you're like, oh my God, thank you, little Lord, baby Jesus. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. That's what breastfeeding should feel like. And so sometimes if people use a pump, they'll hook themselves up and they're like, oh, and I could see it. I'm like, why are we making this face? It's not supposed to look that way. Ooh. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And then I feel it, even though it's virtual, and I feel like I'm so squeezing everything and I get so stressed. I'm like, okay, here's what we're going to look for. Just simple things. Here's A, B, C, and D. And everybody also thinks, well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm an A cup. This is what it is. I'm a G cup. This is what it is. No, not every A cup has the same nipple. Just doesn't happen. So it really has to go specifically for that parent at that stage of your life. And even if you breastfeed future children, it may evolve. So I have moms who like, this is their 4th and 5th kid. And they're like, why isn't this working? I'm like, because your body evolves. Like it doesn't just, you can't stay this way forever. Your body will actually change. So I think it's important that you attempt to pump in the hospital and you do it with trained eyes on you that could say, okay, Lauren, here's what you need to look for. And then you have a lactation consultant that says, Nick, this is what I expect from you. Because please don't even get me started on how lactation consultants like work with moms. There's a whole other person in that room, be it another mom, a dad, a grandma, an aunt, somebody's there as a support person. They need instruction on what to do too, because they often feel like really lost and like, how do I do this? And she's going to provide all of the food for these babies. What am I going to do? Am I just going to sit here? So when you're in the hospital, I actually would try before you get to the hospital to make sure that you know what the hours of the lactation consultant are, and not every hospital has somebody there 5 days a week or 7 days a week. I apologize. They might only have somebody there 5 days a week. So it's important for you to know what the services are that your specific hospital provides, COVID, not COVID, regular day, Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 2 a.m. What are the services? And also for the NICU too, does the NICU have an exclusive lactation consultant? It's just nice to know if you could find it. A lot of times you could find it on your hospital website, but if you can't, you could call a social worker at your hospital that will know exactly what the services are for your particular hospital. So get that all done. Girl, you got a lot of work to do. I'll help you with those car seats. So tell Nick when he's ready just to call me and we'll FaceTime and I'll help you guys check it out. Okay? All right. Do you have any other questions for me? I went through a lot today. I was excited to see you, I have to say. When I knew that this was coming up, I really I'm very excited for you, and you're in your home stretch, and I can't wait for you to be like a card carrying twin mom and be one of us. And I'm already excited.
There was one thing that I wanted to say that like back to like the social media topic that we talked about or like posting things. I think another topic to like discuss besides being aligned with your partner is just like have the conversation with family. What's
Mhm.
allowed to be posted, what's not. And so I don't think this is like unique to me, but I haven't shared this yet either. So hi family, if you're watching this and you're like, what are those? But I came up with these, like I think I called them the 5 S's, and I may not remember all of them. But one is like shots, so like make sure you have your Tdap 2 weeks prior.
Mhm.
Is no shoes. So when you come into our home, please don't drag your shoes. If you want to buy the little hospital thing to put over it, that's fine. No scents. I don't want any fragrance. Shoot, I'm gonna forget one. But one of them I called it just to match the S's. I said no sexy, as in like don't post a naked photo of my child, and don't post a photo without asking, or like you just yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
That's just something to think about. I forgot the fifth. I can tell y'all later what it is, but I have put that together as far as like easy guidelines, boundaries that we are setting.
Do you know what you could do? You would take some of Nick's button-down shirts and leave them by the front, and then if somebody does come on with too much scent or something and you're worried about it, they could just pop it over their clothes. We did that all the time. My
Yeah.
mother-in-law smoked. Please don't even get me started. And she'd be like, I'm changing my clothes. It's not enough. It's literally not enough. That's called third hand. Nope, not playing this game. Put on this freaking shirt and just be quiet. So yeah, so we had
But even
clothing
like
that
perfume,
people
I don't want
wore.
it. I don't want
I don't blame you. Plus, you're going to be sensitive to it too.
yeah.
So if those are your rules, I love your rules. I am not going to wear shoes in your house. I will not wear perfume. I would love it. I would love it. I'm going to start walking right now because I'm not getting on a plane. So I'm going to start walking. I'll be there in a month if you need me.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right, guys. If you have questions for Lauren or for me or anything regarding literally anything, what do you want to know? What Lauren should be doing at her 31st week? You want to know how I make, meatballs on Sunday? Whatever. I don't care. Shoot us a question over community@twiniversity.com, or you could throw it in our social channels. But I did go back to this chat and see that I put Lauren's Instagrams in there. So it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. Connect with her because it's interesting because we know Lauren, but it's really nice to follow along the journey in kind of real time. So that's going to be my big tip to them. All right, girl. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay.
Oh my God. All right, guys. See you later,
Bye.
alligators. Bye, guys.